Hello, welcome to Talking Pictures, a weekly podcast where we talk about movies, TV, and other pictures we think is worth to talk about. My name's Brian, and I will be your host for today. We are joined by my co-host and fellow picture talker, David. David, how are you?
I'm good, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. Are you close enough to that, or will I back
I think
away a bit?
I think I'm close enough here now. Hopefully, the viewers and the listeners will be able to hear me. But what are we here to talk about today? Another picture.
We're here to talk about an MCU picture.
For our first one now to talk about on the podcast, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I think generally it was good. I think that there's definitely some criticisms that we both have. It's going to be hard to talk about this and keep it in a positive light because that's what we want to do. But
we're going to talk about it in a positive light, but we're also going to talk spoilers.
Yeah, this is a full spoiler. It's only brand new. This is coming out now on the Wednesday after release, so it's been out a week. But go see it and make up your own mind and come back to us if you want to hear what we say. But we're going to be talking spoilers anyway. So yeah, Ant-Man, what did you think?
I tried to make a pact with myself to only see good movies in the cinema this year, and the critics were putting me off a little bit. Like, I almost could have waited for Disney Plus, but I'm too used to seeing superhero movies and the MCU films in the cinema. It's just a habit and routine, so naturally I will go see it. But it is off-putting to see the critics bash it, even though I'm happy that you said that audiences, the majority of them are liking it. So that's a good spin. I got popcorn in this, so that means even if I don't enjoy it, I'll be eating popcorn. And you know what? By the end of it, I did enjoy it. I think it felt like it's been a minute since I've watched an MCU movie, or I've watched a movie in the MCU that ties into the larger universe. With the introduction of Kang, with the common references to other Avengers. Avengers was mentioned a few times. Kang's killed Avengers. And then over teasing his presence in future movies to come, that he is going to be at least the lead antagonist in Avengers Kang Dynasty. This is the third movie of Ant-Man, and he's also appeared in other movies that doesn't start his name. So, unlike, in my opinion, Black Panther, and you know what, even Thor Love and Thunder, I felt like this Ant-Man movie felt more connected to the MCU.
Definitely, yeah.
Even though we're stuck entirely in the quantum realm. So, no Michael Pena. But that didn't bother me. Look, I'm gonna stick on the positives, and I do like that Peyton Reed, the director, his third out now, has decided to do something different. He symbolically kicked down Feige's office door saying, I want to make an Avengers level Ant-Man movie. And you know what? Props to him for giving it a try. You know, the over CGI-ness of it all. A combination of characters and a big battle in an otherworldly environment. But I didn't feel any meat and I didn't feel any stakes about it. It didn't make me not like it. It just... I was eating my popcorn. What about you?
Yeah, well, if I kind of maybe go point by point there of what you said, it definitely felt like it was trying hard to remind you that it's connected to the other movies.
Yeah.
Because throughout the whole time they talk about the events of Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
They remind you that Ant-Man was in Captain America. They remind you who Thor is and that the two of them know each other. They tried really hard throughout the movie to remind you, hey, you know, it's not just Ant-Man.
And I didn't think that was desperate or anything.
No, I think that would feel natural.
It felt nice, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually nice to see that, because I guess of what is to come down the line. There are other things that are just like, for fuck's sake, this is out there. Like, we'll get to MODOK in a minute. But yeah, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. It felt like it would be natural in this world. Like, I mean, everyone does it with their own friends. You're sitting there talking to some of your friends and you refer to things that have happened before.
Yeah.
It just feels, it's natural, and it feels like we're in on it, because the thing is, they only reference the movies we've seen. Obviously this is kind of a living, breathing world, but they only reference the movies that we've seen. They don't reference any kind of time between the movies, which I think I would like. That would make it feel like oh, that was something we didn't get to see.
Yeah.
Kind of like how the end of Iron Man 3, it felt like the end credit scene of Iron Man 3 where Bruce Banner is there and the two of them are just hanging out. It felt like, oh, that feels like it's a movie or TV show in itself, the two of those guys.
Yeah.
But that's something we don't see. So I think maybe if they kind of tried that a bit more, just refer to things that happened off screen that we don't get to see.
You reminded me 2 points regarding that little lack thereof. One in this movie where they're eating pizza, it's shrunk and they grow it, make a big pizza. Says, and Janet Van Dyne talking about how I've missed this having pizza, and I'm thinking, was Tanis a few days ago, or was it not like a couple of months ago? Have you not had pizza in the time since? Like,
it feels like they're reminding you, oh, she hasn't been around, but there has been time between the Ant-Man and the Wasp and then Avengers and now. It feels like you're right. I know what you mean, that it feels like
you haven't had pizza in the months between Scott Lang has written a book up until now.
Yeah,
I understand that referencing that she's been away, reminding audiences that, hey, in case you didn't see the last 2 movies and maybe any of the other MCU movies, you're here for the first time. She's been away in this other reality for yada yada yada. Anywho, another thing in terms of events happening off screen, and we're put in the middle of those, I suppose. The other thing in terms of events happening off screen and we're put in somewhat of a random position of those events. In Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, all of a sudden, oh yeah, Mordo's been trying to kill Doctor Strange since the events of Doctor Strange 1, and we're only learning about this. Oh, okay, I guess that's already been established. He's not going to attack him for the first time in Doctor Strange 2. That he's already been doing it. We don't even see our Mordo do that. But that's like a grander scale thing that's happened. I guess it's not necessary, but still. But anyway, what else did you like about it or thought was interesting about it?
I suppose it's hard to kind of I know you said there, what did I like about it? It's kind of hard to maybe compare this movie to the previous 2 movies.
Yeah.
Because the 2 previous movies were very much set in real world, modern day San Francisco, whereas this one completely takes place in a fictional reality called the Quantum Realm. So it like we were saying there as we came out of the theater, it was 3 scenes, three maybe 4 scenes before we are straight into the Quantum Realm. It felt like for me it might have been better to kind of spend a little bit of time in the world, because I think that we're kind of given a glimpse at the start of the movie of who Scott has become since the Avengers, and he's riding high on the legacy of him being a hero rather than being a hero. So and he's kind of called out on that by his daughter and some of the other members of the Ant-Man family. So I think maybe seeing that a little bit more, I know that's not a positive thing.
No.
But
I actually like how you're describing it. If I would have said that, I would have said, "Oh yeah, Ant-Man, he's just become a bit of a dosser and a waffle."
Yeah, but exactly. He's not out there saving people, whereas his daughter is out and
doing humane things.
We're introduced to her coming out of jail because she's been out protesting about people who are kind of actually similar to what we're saying there, like things you see, a connected universe here. It was homeless people who were displaced by the blip.
I like that.
That's like a little like carryover from Endgame. So people are homeless. People are homeless after the Avengers saved them. That's not exactly a positive thing, even though it is generally a positive thing to bring everyone back. People are now homeless because of it. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see, I suppose, that aspect. Like we're saying, things happening off screen and you kind of feel like a connected thread throughout these things happen off screen. But I think if we'd spend a little bit more time in the real world, seeing who Scott is now and why isn't he a hero, rather than just jumping straight in and kind of being told, just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it's not happening.
And I think if we did have more time in the first act in the real world to understand who Scott is, I think if it has been written better or stronger, it could have really emphasized and hit home emotionally his hero's journey and transition from taking a backseat as a superhero to becoming the first Avenger to oppose Kang.
Let's talk a little bit about Kang, I suppose. So he is this phase, this saga. We had obviously the initial Infinity Saga with Thanos being the overall bad guy, but now the multiverse saga is set up with Kang as the overarching villain. So this was his first, well, kind of his second introduction. He was
First mainstream.
slightly teased in Loki season 1, but this was his first appearance, and we got a real sense for him. So how do you feel like they portrayed him and teased him for the future? How do you feel like they did that?
I like that they've done it, I suppose, in an Ant-Man movie, because this is Kang, not He Who Shall Not Be Named, or He Who Remains.
He Who Remains, yeah.
Yeah. I like that he was a lead villain in the first movie of Phase 5, a threat to a character who is out of his league in that of Ant-Man. I like that they even acknowledged that. He's not fighting against Captain America or Thor or Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel. No, Ant-Man. I like that. And that feels a bit like James Gunny, you know? Like, no, we're not going to do the typical mainstream blockbuster global climactical event. No, we'll do that at the end. We'll start here and we'll establish Kang's presence as a threat and Ant-Man becoming a pivotal character in what is to come, like he was a pivotal character in Endgame. However, I thought it would have been effective if Ant-Man died.
Yeah.
I thought if Kang killed Ant-Man at the very end and the rest of the characters get to go home, Kang still gets stuck in the quantum realm. He doesn't get to leave, but he kills Ant-Man. But Ant-Man died. Like, he sacrifices himself as a result of Kang killing him. I literally imagined it in my head before watching the movie.
It would kind of mirror, I suppose, the beginning of Infinity War, where Thanos kills Loki, and you really kind of get a sense of that at the beginning of the movie, that, oh, this guy doesn't mess around.
Yeah.
He's coming in here and he's killing people. Killing characters that we know, that we've known since the beginning, and characters that we like. So to have Ant-Man, who is primarily kind of a comedic character, to go up against the multiverse saga's villain, the Thanos equivalent, to have him die at the end of his own movie, really would have struck home, like, oh, this guy is a threat. And fair enough, like you said there, that it would have been a situation of Scott sacrificing himself and then to let the others go home, and then Kang killing him. You would get that sense that Kang is out there and he's coming.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to find a way back.
And they did acknowledge that bit in the movie, but humorously.
It was done in a comedic way. But it could have been a real somber, like, Ant-Man is dead and Kang is out there and he's coming. Kind of like how Thanos was, you know, when Bruce landed at the beginning of Infinity War and he's like, oh, he's coming.
Yeah.
But imagine that throughout a whole phase
of movies,
like, oh, you know, he's on his way, he's coming, and we should be afraid because he killed Ant-Man. And
see what you just said there. I think that months from now, having watched this, if that's what would have happened, just think, Kang killed Ant-Man. It's like, we saw Spider-Man No Way Home, we saw Avengers Endgame. That's what I would probably would have been thinking. In terms of the excitement level of that. Kang killed Ant-Man. They would have brought Ant-Man back at some point, I'm sure. Everyone comes back. But I thought that would have been very emotional. And I thought it would have also hit more in terms of Scott Lang's hero's journey in becoming an Avenger once again.
Yes, exactly. I think that might have been... It would have served the story as a whole. It would have served this Ant-Man story as a whole Ant-Man story, rather than just a setup for the Kang movie.
It could have been better.
But it could have been both.
It could have been better.
And I think that what you were saying there, that there was no meat, there was no goosebump moment, there was no real, like, you know, there was no goosebump moment. There was no 3 Spider-Men swinging in. There was no portals in Avengers. Not saying that every film has to have that, but it was missing a big set piece or a big kind of moment to make you go like, oh wow, this was worth the whole 2 hours I watched before.
Yeah.
Not to say that the movie isn't worth watching, but for me personally, I don't know about you, but it didn't feel like there was that big kind of, this is what we've been leading to in this movie.
I've only now realised I feel like this is the most we've been actually passionate about an Ant-Man movie, hoping and wishing it would have been better.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a funny little note to say about this, about both of our viewings. This was the first Ant-Man movie I've seen in theatres, and this is the first Ant-Man movie you've seen in Ireland.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny.
I forgot about that. Yeah, the first Ant-Man movie I saw, I was in Australia, and the second Ant-Man movie I saw when I was in America. Yeah, Sydney and Florida. And
Dundalk.
Yeah, and Dundalk.
The other villain, I suppose, to talk about is MODOK.
They finally brought MODOK in. Who
is probably one of the stupidest looking characters, not only in this movie, but in comic books. So when you watch it, and like the people in our theatre, when he showed his face, everyone kind of audibly laughed out loud. And it was like, okay, yeah, and he just looked stupid. And in all fairness to Marvel, he's a stupid looking character. It's hard to make him look good, I think, in live action.
He looked the best he could have been,
yes,
given the fact that they were going to do that look. They didn't keep him robotic or non-human. He still had a human head.
Because I remember, I don't know about you, but I remember when the initial promo art came out for him, and he was that metal figure. So I thought they were just going with that the whole time, and I was like, okay, that's a...
Keep him more android or
machine-like, yeah, definitely.
Rather than... I was really surprised when they full on kept the human look of him. And you know what? I praised them for this, for having the balls to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, something is just telling me or trying to remind me, when was the last time we saw something like this? Something that's so obscure, so uncanny, that only CGI can do it. I'm drawing a blank, and I can't think of what I'm trying to use as an example, but it feels like this is something we have not seen done before.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose it's just taking me back to the earlier MCU movies. What characters are very obscure looking and like that? It might even just be as simple as a humanoid alien. MODOK is not that.
Mm-hmm.
MODOK is something very wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like you said, it was done the best way it could have been done. And you know what? Corey Stoll, I like how he sounds. I like his voice.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he's a very good actor. I wish he could get more roles. Anyway, they even give him a redemption story at the end, and I actually like the way they've done it. It was done very quick. It was done very Marvel-y, right on your nose, almost Taika Waititi like. At least I got to die as an Avenger, and I also saw you as a brother, and the Ant-Man touching his face, like, and fucking that guy looks like a broccoli, and the other red goo thing running around. You know what? The whole rebellion, resistance, all those characters, I don't care about them.
No.
I was just thinking, yeah, whatever. Like, it was already bad enough that, Giant Man walks in and, crushes a few buildings, but, there's too many of them, just like that. You can't take them. And then, the rebellion comes in. And I'm sorry, but, like, maybe you should have just skipped to the ants, because I thought that was at least a little bit more effective.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, actually, now that you've said that there with that kind of the Taika Waititi-ness of it, that kind of, you've maybe connected two wires in my head there, because it felt like that band of resistance people, there were a couple of characters in there that were, it seems like, intentionally trying to make the next Korg.
Yeah. And Korg and Meek, yeah.
Korg and Meek, exactly. So, like, obviously in Thor Ragnarok, we had those characters come in, and in the Rebellion, and they were fan favourites. And now this time around, we have similar with the goo guy and the guy with the cannon for a head.
Yeah.
And it felt very much that they were trying to cash in a little bit of that Taika Waititi-ness that's kind of connected in my brain there from you saying it. But I think, kind of building on what you said there, with this movie, unlike, say, Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor, both Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, where you can kind of feel the director's print on it.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie had any kind of director's print on it. You said there that Peyton Reed kind of came in and said, look, I want to do an Avengers style movie. This movie felt like it could have been directed by anyone. It could have been just kind of handed off to any
It could have been
any
done.
other director.
It could have been done by the directors who did Captain Marvel.
Exactly. There was no real director's print on it, and you felt like, oh, this is someone's movie.
Yeah.
Even with Eternals, which, you know, controversially didn't do well. We both enjoyed it. I felt Chloe Zhao's print on that in terms of the relationships between the characters, and that's something that she is kind of well known for with Nomadland.
Yeah.
The connections between the character of Frances McDormand's character and then the real people in the movie. I felt that between the Eternals, between themselves. But with this, it did feel like there was no... This could have been directed by... I couldn't even name the people that directed Captain Marvel. I don't know if you can, but that's just kind of where it is. It's
very generic.
Yeah.
And I think it would have stood above the genericness had they raised the stakes. The most I feared Kang was the very end when he was fist fighting Ant-Man. Like, no CGI, no green screen. This is man on man beating the shit out of each other. Seeing the sweats. Okay, now I feel like it's a little bit real. And, you know, then in my mind, at least in my imagination, they could have done the whole, you know, Kang kills Scott Lang and Scott Lang dies while ensuring Kang never leaves. Like, literally what he says in the trailer and in the movie. I don't have to win. I just need to make sure we both lose. They teased it even. But as I always like to try and remind myself, if I want to change something about a movie, I should go write the whole movie.
Yeah. It's easy to go back and retroactively after watching it for 2 hours where it's laid out in front of us saying, oh well, you should have done this, should have done that. It's like, yeah, exactly what you say there. If you're gonna say these things, we'll go back and start it from the start and make it a different movie. Yeah. It's easy to say it in hindsight.
Don't, you know, shit on someone else's work. They gave it a go. They did it. I'm happy for them. I enjoyed this movie overall. I wish I got more emotional about it, but I suppose I'm happy for that to be done by the Avengers movies. I also wanted to say I like how the heroes have performed their powers with the shrinking and the growing. Like, it was almost done like, oh yeah, we're naturals at this. I remember when Scott Lang was like, oh, ho, 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 being giant man, and he was even more giant in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and all of a sudden Wasp can be giant, no problem. I know What If and all that, but like, she can be giant as well as small. But Cassie Lang, okay, yeah, she's a couple of trial errors. She's almost a natural of a fighter. She shrinks, but then she had that little big moment fighting against MODOK where she can grow. And overall, what I'm trying to say is I like how their superpowers were done in this movie. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was done effectively. I suppose what wasn't done effectively is the constant camera shifts and spins and pans and quick cuts to, oh, what happened there? I couldn't see.
Yeah, it was kind of, I think because it was so CGI heavy, it was kind of hard to see what was happening in a way, kind of allowing your brain to catch up to what your eyes are seeing.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. I think that a lot of people talk about Marvel fatigue. I don't know if you felt it.
I have.
Yeah, I think I felt it in this movie.
I felt it now for this movie, I think for the first time in a while. I didn't for Thor Love and Thunder. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. But this movie I did. I think it started when Kang showed Janet, this is my plan. And you see the formation of all his soldiers in a formation of 20. In, like, you know, in a bird's eye shot.
Yeah.
You can see them a square here and a square here of a row of 20 men or a row of 50 men, and you see them marching with their guns and you see them ships, and like, is that for show? Are you quick guys, he's looking at the window, quick.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, I think
That's like, you know, superhero evil master plan 101 setup. You know, monologue.
Show the hero what I'm capable of by way of army. Yeah.
Yes, and I suppose 25, I'm almost 26. I'm getting kind of over it at this point, you know. So I think maybe, look, that was the first of it, and then, okay, well, he's angry, so I'm gonna go shoot my lasers, which I like. One quick zap and you're dead. But after killing a couple of nameless nobodies, and that metal guy with the head cannon, which I kind of like because he looked cool, and you didn't kill the other ones because I didn't like them.
It's funny that like you say there, that he comes down and he shoots all these lasers and people are dying instantly, and it's like funny how you didn't do that to any of the named main characters. Ant-Man, Wasp and Cassie come in and you don't shoot your lasers at them. It's like
time for the monologue. No,
Yeah.
wait, not yet. Actually, don't do a monologue. He doesn't do a monologue. He fights them a little bit first, and then, okay, that's that one set of shots done. Now, monologue. And you know what? I thought it was cool. Michael Douglas showed up. Yeah, here's my aunt. You know, I like that little bit, and thank God that wasn't the end of Kang. It's like, well, that's it. You just gets taken away by a bunch of ants. No, that's when he comes back and he has the fist fight. Which, look, yeah, that's a bit of fatigue for me. I'm looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy because of James Gunn, and it's a real emotional hurrah with that. And I do like a good ragtag of characters in an adventure. But yeah, speaking of Kang, Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, someone that we've talked about the character but not the actual actor. So I don't know about you, I thought Jonathan Majors was the standout for the movie. I think that he was probably the best both actor and character in it. He's someone that I'm glad that he's not a once-off villain. I'm looking forward to seeing him going forward, and it feels like through both post-credit scenes that Marvel are really investing in him as an actor, and we're really going to see a lot of him, which I think is great. I think I'm really looking forward to see him go forward.
It's amazing how I've only become known of Jonathan Majors since 2019 with The Five Bloods, and then later that year Lovecraft Country, and then a few noticeable appearances later. Oh, he's Kang, and Kang is now the new Thanos. I think, yeah, he's great. I think he's really great. I saw it here as well.
Yeah, a few times I think I saw him crying when it's more frustration than upset. Like it,
and it actually didn't feel like the scene called for a cry, but that was a tear anyway.
Yeah,
whether that was CGI or they got quick.
No, I don't think it was, because it was kind of like it wasn't a close-up shot of him. It was just like in the back, like he was kind of the secondary part of the shot, and you could see it.
It was the last shot of the scene. I think I liked it. I don't know, I think his design was cool as well. I liked it when, you know, his blue face disappears, but then his eyes are still blue. I actually wish that was kind of kept.
And the scars
cool.
Going down his cheeks.
Yeah. I like that quite a bit. And he's been teased yet to come again in Loki season 2, probably for one episode. But yeah, interesting enough. But unfortunately, I don't think Kang is a threat yet, like Thanos.
No, not yet.
You know what I did like though? His desperation. There was that last bit in the fight where he was charging to get out back into the real world. You can hear his desperation, his anguish. Like he was really determined to try and get back.
He felt like this was his last chance.
Yeah.
If he didn't get out now, he was stuck.
Yeah, I like that a little bit. I like how he came across as like that first before, I suppose, the threat that he's due to be. I don't know how to feel about the Council of Kangs, with a bunch of Kangs, but I do like the whole rowdiness of it among the audiences, like fucking cheering and roaring and clamouring and fucking bashing their chests into each other. Yeah, it's interesting. I think he's a great casting for it. I really like that he is now the next Josh Brolin.
Yeah, and I look forward to watching more of his filmography. Previously, I've only seen him in Last Black Man in San Francisco, which is a fantastic movie, but I've only seen him in that. So, and he'll be in Creed 3 coming out soon, the end of March. So
great casting for
and he looks huge. We were talking about last week about Dave Bautista being huge. Jonathan Majors looks huge in that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to see him go on in his career, and I hope he does well, because I think he deserves it. I think he is of the caliber to do well.
Do you think he's going to appear next in Kang Dynasty, or do you think he'll appear in another movie before that?
I think we'll see him,
aside from Loki season 2, of course.
Yeah, I think we'll see him in a few post-credit scenes. I think that's kind of the way that it'll go from now on, is because that's how we saw Thanos initially.
Yeah.
We saw him Avengers post-credit, Age of Ultron post-credit,
Guardians.
a scene in Guardians,
Yeah.
and then
A few more.
and not again then till Infinity War. So I think that going forward, that's where we'll see him. We'll see him in our post-credits, and we'll be reminded of him until we see Kang Dynasty, which is not that far away.
2025, yeah.
2025?
Yeah.
That's not as far away as it would seem. I think that
I don't expect to see him in a post-credit scene in Thunderbolts or
no, I think we'll
Echo.
see him maybe 2024. Maybe nothing this year. They'll let the kind of dust settle for this year, but then going forward in 2024, whatever films we have coming out then, we'll see some post-credits Kang. I think we'll see him in a big post-credit scene post Fantastic Four.
Does that have a release date?
It's 2025 as well. I think it's very early. I think February. So I think we'll see him in a big way in the post-credits for that.
Yeah.
Depending on who the villain is for Fantastic Four, which we know very, very little about. Only that it's coming out and that we have a release date in February. But I think we will either see him at the end of that movie or in the post-credits.
I think it could have been better, but I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I had a lot to say, surprisingly so. Mm-hmm. That concludes this episode of Talking Pictures. If you'd like to hear me and David talk more about film and TV and anything else that is a talking picture, please subscribe and follow us on your chosen podcast app of choice.
If you want to follow us on Instagram as well, our Instagram is Talking Pictures Pod. You can find on there in our bio, everywhere you can find the podcast. Our Twitter, we actually have a TikTok coming out now in the next couple of days, so follow us on TikTok. If you can give us a couple of stars, if you want to rate it 5 stars, we'd really appreciate it. Share it on your stories when we go live. We go live we upload every Wednesday. So please support us.
Give us a little whip there, buddy.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, David. Thanks very much.